Hello, my name is Jeffrey Nicholas. I'm a professor of philosophy at Providence College. This is a lecture on the genocide of the Sakowin, which is the Lakota and Dakota, more commonly known as the Sioux. We'll talk a little bit about Sakowin and its meaning in a little bit. I want to begin this lecture by thinking about some common symbols or common places for ourselves, and to think about what it would mean to us, to those who are American, if someone came in and burned the flag, or tore up the flag, or replaced the flag and with a different flag or different symbol. If someone came in and painted the flag, what would that mean, and what kind of response would such an action receive from people who identify as members of the United States or citizens of the United States? We can ask a similar sort of thing, perhaps even more profound, for those who are Roman Catholic. If someone came into the Vatican and started taking down the statues of various saints or the cross in the Vatican and replaced them with religious figures from other traditions, what kind of reaction would such an action receive? What kind of condemnation or what kind of praise might such actions receive? I want to situate our conversation with that in the back of our mind. And another thing that I want to put in the back of our mind is the medieval European worldview. And it's medieval because it still includes ideas of gods and angels and heavens. And many people today in the 21st century don't believe in God and angels and heavens. But this idea of a hierarchy in the universe is still held onto by many people in Europe and of European descent, so that there are human beings above animals and above plants and above other non-animate beings. And that there's some kind of organization in the universe that justifies that kind of hierarchy. To kind of keep that in the back of our mind as we talk about what justifies, if anything could, the kind of treatment that the United States gave to the native peoples of the Americas. Now, we're talking about particular people in what's typically called the western part of the United States, so west of the Mississippi, and before and just after the Civil War. So this is a painting that identifies this concept of manifest destiny. And here we see Lady Liberty and civilization driving westward. And on the right-hand side, we see, cities and trains and things that we might normally identify with progress, with civilization. And of course, it's lit up. The sun shines on that. And that sun is driving away this darkness on the left-hand side, which includes the buffalo, importantly, but also the Native Americans at the time and other wildlife. So this kind of idea that manifest destiny is bringing light into the western part of the world, but it also means that it's driving away this kind of darkness that is associated with nature and associated with the native peoples that lived in the western part of North America at the time. Now, there were a variety of Plains Indians living west of the Mississippi at the time: Arapaho, Assiniboine, Blackfoot, Cheyenne, Comanche, Crow, Gros Ventre, Kiowa, Lakota, Lipan, and Plains Apache. We're not going to focus on all of those. We're going to drive our focus on a particular group of people, which is the Lakota and Dakota. They call themselves the Ochathi-Sekowin, which means the Seven Council Fires. So there's a sense of council here, of unity, but also of independence. Uh, Traditionally, we refer to the Lakota and the Dakota being the uh, further eastern peoples, so those around the Great Lakes, and living somewhat of an agricultural lifestyle, and then the Lakota, which were in the western part uh, of the Great Lakes, and having more of a warlike in comparison to the Dakota. We don't quite know the origins of the Ochathi-Sequan. Possibly the Mississippi Valley, Ohio. They may have been part of the Great Mound people. Uh, so this origin clouded in mystery. What we do know is that in the 17th century, we find them around the Great Lakes region, uh, living somewhat in peace, but also at war with various tribes there, nations there, particularly the Ojibwa, who uh, pushed them westward. Their idea of them of their culture centers around the Thoyaspaya, or campfire, so that the this idea of seven council fires is held throughout and captures the whole lifestyle of the Ochathi-Sequan. Um, a uh, uh, One of the members of the Ochathi-Sequan, known as Beautiful Day Woman, in English her name was Ella Cara Deloria, said, "I can safely say that the ultimate aim of Dakota life, stripped of accessories, was quite simple. One must obey kinship rules. One must be a good relative." And this idea of being a good relative uh, goes throughout their whole philosophy and religious experience. And they have a saying about we are all related. And this is a powerful saying to talk about the relationship between the people and nature, and really all people to a certain extent. One of the identifying stories of the Ochute-Sesewan is that of Tsesewan, the white buffalo calf woman, who brought the peace pipe and the seven rites to the Ochathi-Sesewan to unite them. These seven rites include the sacred pipe ceremony, the sweat lodge, crying for a vision or the vision quest, the sun dance, the making of relatives, the keeping of the soul, and then preparing a girl for womanhood. So these are the kind of kind of rites that unite the Lakota and Dakota people. They also share a variety of values: praying, respect, caring and compassion, honesty and truth, generosity and caring, humility and wisdom, that kind of define their way of life. Now, of course, these values help support good relations, right? And it's these good relations that become important for understanding what a Lakota or Dakota faces. So I remember a story about a crazy horse whose wife left him for another man, and he went and he shot the other man, and he had to eventually make peace with the other man so that there would be peace within their own camp. So it was about building these relations that were important. Another important idea is that of the Chungliska Waka, which is the sacred hoop. And here we see this. And I want us to think about this sacred hoop in relationship to the idea of the hierarchy that we see in European origin philosophies. So the sacred hoop is the unity of all nature. You can see that there are a different color for each corner or each of the four winds that we might talk about, and represented by different animals. I believe this is a wolf over here. I apologize that the animals are cut off. But the sense that all living beings participate or share in Wakan. This, again, is the notion of a spiritual essence or spiritual power, not unlike Orinda among the Iroquois, but unlike what we might think of as the soul among Christians, because this is something that's more inclusive than what we might think of as soul, and something that doesn't exist necessarily apart. So we have this kind of vision of relations and visions of the world that stands in the way, if you will, of the idea of manifest destiny. And so one of the great Lakota leaders, Red Cloud, says of the people of the United States, they made us many promises, more than I can remember, but they never kept but one. They promised to take our land, and they took it. This is from someone who actually won a war in the 1860s against the United States and fought the United States to a standstill, but who recognized that the people of the United States simply do not keep their promises, that the government does not keep their promises. There was a treaty in 1878, the Fort Laramie Treaty, which ceded the Black Hills to the Lakota and Dakota because the Black Hills, Pahasapa, in the language of the people, is sacred. It is the center of the universe and the center of life. And so they promised this land to the people that lived there and honored it for in perpetuity, as long as the rivers flow and as long as the sun rises. But then gold was found there, and of course we know how Europeans get excited about gold, and so European descendants, United States citizens, began invading the Black Hills looking for this gold. The Lakota responded and killed some of these people. This led to the Battle of Little Bighorn, in which the United States sent in troops to protect the white people in violation of the treaty, obviously. And General Custer was killed by the Lakota, led by Crazy Horse in a famous battle. But this led to all-out war against the Lakota and Dakota. And one of the interesting things, of course, is that technology plays a significant role here. So that the United States had the Gatling gun. If you want to know the importance of technology and why the United States came to have the Gatling gun and the Lakota did not, I invite you to watch my lectures on guns, germs, and steel, or read Jared Diamond's book on that issue. The Lakota had eventually surrendered, and they were gathered together and they surrendered over their weapons. And then the United States Army brought out the Gatling gun and mowed down women, children, and men, leaving them to die in the snow and buried there. Now, I bring up the Mount Rushmore here because it is what has been put on the Black Hills, which was ceded as sacred territory to the Lakota. Each of these presidents represented there have been anti-Native American in various ways. Lincoln, who will take as a standout here, obviously ended slavery, and yet oversaw the largest execution in the United States of 38 Lakota, the largest execution of anyone in the United States, overseen by Lincoln. And also authorized the Pacific Railroad Act, which violated various treaties and pushed the Native Americans aside. And so we have this violation of sacred territory by the United States and putting on people who obviously hated Native Americans and put their faces on this sacred territory there. This is not from the Lakota, but from the Crow. Plenty says, "But when the buffalo went away, the hearts of my people fell to the ground, and they could not lift them up again. After this, nothing happened." We do have Lakota and Dakota around today, and they still live strong, but in a different way than they did before.